you everyone who has finally decided to stick with us. We have had a lot of technical difficulties, and poor Christian thinks it's all his fault, and he's got some sort of bad vibe.
It's mine.
Oh, well, anyways, hello everyone, and this is our first actual event for my new book, The Best New True Crime Stories, Small Towns. It's the 8th Facebook Live event, but the first for this particular book. And I'm here joined by Christian Cipollini, or Cipollini, if you were in Italia, but we're not. And thank you for bearing with us and going on and off the this broadcast with me.
Hey, I suffer the same pain you do with technology. It's A-okay. We're good.
Oh, but this was the biggest pain yet. I mean, you know, God knows. Let's hope we haven't lost all of our viewers. Thank God this stuff stays on. At least I hope it's going to stay on. I'll die.
Yeah,
I'll absolutely kill myself. Yeah, if it's like
everyone who's putting up with it.
God, what if this doesn't save? I'm afraid to click anything to check it.
I know. I don't want to touch anything either. I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, just do this. All right.
Oh man. Well, okay. So I'm so glad that you were able to join me finally.
Thank you.
And how are you doing with our plague?
I'm maintaining sanity as best I can. You know, like everybody, it pisses me off. It affects everything, but some good things have come out of it. I don't know how to put it. I don't generally try to find the bright side of things. I'm a pessimist, but I did actually have some really good things come out of this. So I'm surviving. How are you?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best we can hope for. Yeah, it's the same for me, really. I mean, I've been so busy. It's not like I've really noticed things, but
Right.
you know, you get to a point where to save your own sanity, you have to start like not watching the news, trying to limit who your Twitter feed shows. I mean, I've actually, you know, my famous bear, Teddy Teddaloo, has actually gone on Twitter saying that I want to be followed by more bears and animals because I don't really want to see this feed.
Yeah, it's toxic. It can be really toxic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of toxic. So we don't want to talk about toxic today. We're going to talk about true crime and murder and cartels and all that good stuff.
Right?
All that good wholesome stuff. Yay!
It makes me smile.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So again, the best new true crime stories, small towns. And Christian has written a story called The Black Hand and Glass Eye of Early Mart, A Killer's Perspective. Tell us a bit about Early Mart.
Okay, well,
if I've said that town right, I know where it is approximately, but I don't know if I've said it right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good pronunciation. Little town. The biggest town, as I put in the book, near it is Delano, if I pronounced that correctly, in central southernish California. So Early Mart is primarily an agricultural town. A lot of Mexican Americans, and not a place necessarily you would think about violent crime, but as I put in the book, the county itself of Tulare has had a history overall. So it's a shocking little incident, but not in the bigger picture is shocking. It's not that shocking. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it was funny because I know Tulare County, when I was doing my journalism degree, this is a bit of an aside, but I did an internship for a PR internship, and I was actually remotely working with a hospital in what was it? What's the town there in Tulare County? There's a big town, well, big for there. The main, I'm blank, but anyways, that's my connection at Tulare. I've never been there, but I know what it is. This is a more agricultural part of the state of California.
Right.
Yeah, so not a lot of things happening except in this particular case. So your story focuses on a gentleman who is known as El Mano Negra.
Correct.
Can you tell us a bit about who is El Mano Negra?
Okay, well, first, for the story included in the book, that was from 2009. And at the time, in 2009, the name El Mano Negro was certainly not national or international as it became a few years later. But the main character of our story, Jose Martinez, El Mano Negra, was basically a cartel debt collector slash Sicario hitman for about since 1980, and this was one of his murders that he later admitted to in 2013 when he was caught. So Jose's backstory is he spent most of his time in the United States, most of it in California, and he grew up to become a hitman, pretty much. I don't want to give everything away, but mostly is a debt collector for cartels and others, but that also includes the enforcement aspect of the job. If someone doesn't pay the debt, there's that other option, and that's, of course, killing them. So our story is about one particularly kind of bizarre of his almost 40 confirmed murders in as many years that El Mano Negro is responsible for. Yeah.
That's quite a CV.
Yes. He's a lot. For people who don't know about him, he hit the newspapers in 2013 in Alabama. He was wanted on a charge there, and he ended up telling the prosecutor, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was pretty much, he said to the prosecutor, so do you have some time? And the prosecutor, yeah, okay. And then he proceeds to go into the 40 years of people he's killed. He just copped. But the interesting thing about Jose Martinez is he never once implicated or ratted out, as you would say in my field, anyone who he was friends and associated with. He ratted himself out and would mention people who he had killed very specifically, or people who were sort of involved, but he's never, again, as we call it, he never ratted anyone out except himself. It's just in 2013, he's sitting there with the DA in Alabama, and he's like, okay, here, I'll tell you what I've been doing for the last 40 years. So there, yeah.
Well, that's quite a bit of ethics he's got, that he didn't spill the beans on his comrades, so to speak.
Right. No, he won't. In his memoirs that I have, certain people are referred to only by either their nickname or the alias he's given them for the sake of the memoirs. So, like his direct boss, he goes by the name Mr. X. That's all it'll be. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he wasn't trying to cop a plea. He wasn't trying to get any deal on anything. He came clean for whatever motive and just decided, I'm going to tell my story, but I'm not going to get anybody else in trouble. He had no reason to. There was no deal put before him like, hey, tell us who your bosses were. All he would say is, I worked for some cartels. That's all you need to know. So, and he's a big fan of El Chapo. So I'll just say that.
Well, I guess the fact is, since he didn't rat anybody out, he's certainly probably not got any hits out on him for that. Keeps himself alive.
Yeah, that too. Because as he said, in that world, you can become a victim of it too. It's part of the cycle. And yeah, I mean, he would be in trouble, and he's not. And as I put in the book, again, we don't want to give everything away in the short story, but in that version, we tried to briefly explain it. If you met Mr. Martinez, there's two versions of him you could get. I mean, he is an admitted cold-blooded killer, at the same time, he also is, as he's been characterized, a doting grandfather. I mean, he cares a lot about his kids and his mom and his grandkids. He does. He's serious, and he has a respect. You know, he asked me how my family is and stuff, things like that we talk about, because he does have a sensibility about that. There's a certain thing, you know, he just does. So yeah, you could get either side of him, though. If you were a drug dealer and owed the boss a lot of money, you're not going to get the grandfather version of El Mano Negra. You're going to get the one that'll stab you with pruning shears.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's black or white, one or the other. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So in this particular instance, this killing that happened in early March, it was basically he was cleaning up somebody. It was a small time dealer, if I'm correct.
Yeah. The another interesting thing about that particular crime, it's never fully been developed what that guy did specifically, because even other, which we didn't throw into the story, but there were witness or people who were questioned. Not many people would say much, but the ones that did had heard stories that the victim, yeah, he had a record of being a small time drug dealer and user, which raises, you know, obviously flags. Okay. But other people were saying, yeah, there were a few people that kind of didn't like him. So who knows? Martinez himself told me he had heard this guy was kind of I don't want to know if a rapist, but a molester and in drug debt. I never quite got the full, okay, which was it, or was it all of these reasons that you killed him? For whatever reason, El Mano Negra doesn't divulge quite every detail. There's some that you can tell, you know, he's just not going to say. But generally speaking, the victim was known to be a dealer and user. So my assumption, knowing and having read the rest of the memoirs and knowing Jose, that there was, obviously in the book tells, there was a price tag put on that gentleman's head, and Jose took it. So yeah, I know that's kind of round and round and round. It's just that case was different because it wasn't very cut and dry, in my opinion, as to what the victim really did to earn that price on his head. So, whereas some of the other tales, it's pretty cut and dry. Why? You know, if somebody owes $25,000, he goes, yeah. This guy was it was vagueness, but as we know, the reason I included it in the story is probably the end statement in the story says it all. Why I picked that one for this, Jose's own.
Yeah, don't give that away.
We're not giving anything. Just
gotta read the book and the story for that.
Right.
Well, one of the most interesting things in your particular story, what made this so unique is you essentially had a backstage pass for Jose. So tell us a bit about what I mean by that backstage pass.
Okay, so a few years ago, a colleague of mine who deals with convicted felons. Anyway, he came to me and said, "Hey, I've got this this guy. You may have heard of him, you may not have. Long story short, he wants to put a book out or a couple books out, and he's read your books and he wants to talk to you." And at first, I honestly was caught up with a bunch of things, and I'm like, I don't know, cartel stuff. I'm dealing with this mafia stuff now, and finally, I took a phone call. It was a three-way phone call, and I kind of put this in the story. I'll be honest, I liked him. I mean, he was funny. there's a thing about sociopaths that you have to take into consideration. There's a braggadocio, an ego thing, but yet he never bullshitted me about what he did. Like, it wasn't that I didn't do it or woe is me. He's never done that. It was more like, here's what I've done. And anyway, so I started to entertain the thought of possibly looking at his things, and he sent me his handwritten memoirs and police reports, and we started talking more. And at the time, in the facility he was in, we were allowed to do video visits when they were holding him in Florida. That jail wouldn't let me send him a letter, but they would let us do scheduled video visits where it would look like this. And it was great. Odd, though, that I couldn't send a full letter to him. But anyway, in a lot of those visits, I had learned other nuances and things about him. So, yeah, it was like a backstage pass in that I never saw coming. So I eventually agreed to take his memoirs and release them. Or at first I was thinking writing a narrative, and then I thought, no, because there's other books coming out on him, and they're more, how should I say it? Like, I don't know, like a Lifetime movie kind of thing. So I decided, you're right, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, some people out listening do. It's my little dig. But, and I don't care. I decided I'm going to release his POV. I thought, what speaks better? Let people read his version of this. I will add the corroboration and, of course, police reports, coroner's reports, things that actually prove to the authorities, wow, this guy wasn't talking out his ass. He really did this. And then I'm also going to add in what I would call glossary of terms related to cartel in the language, all that. Like, that's where my expertise is. So anyway, but yeah, I had a backstage pass. I digress. I had a backstage pass into this guy's life for the last 2-3 years. And I put the story in here that is one of the most bizarre of them all. So, yeah, I think people will dig it. But yeah, he's an interesting character, Mitzi. He's definitely an interesting guy.
Well, that comes through in this story. I mean, I'll be honest with you. One of the things that the first thing I thought of when I was reading this was Tuco Salamanca from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Because Tuco he was totally wacko psycho, but you couldn't hate him because he was funny. There was just something about him. And El Mano Negra is the same. I mean, his humor and I mean his personality. I mean, you've got like I was just cracking up where he's like, you know, he'll go, you know, he's going to worry about how to kill someone, and the next minute he's taking some woman. Oh, I took her to a good Mexican dinner at this restaurant. It's just it's hysterical.
He goes from and that's the thing too about his photographic memory. Now, even he'll say to me sometimes on the phone, "Oh, I'm getting older, I forget stuff." But generally, me and my colleague discovered very quickly he is photographic memory. And that's how, when the police were investigating what he claimed to have done from 10, 20 years ago, he had details down to the color of the leaves that day of where he buried a body. I mean, but that also plays into the psychology. Some, you know, they were calling him a serial killer, and, you know, people who are into that know a lot of them, you know, the memory, the imagery, the photographic memories. Yeah, he has that. He's hand-drawn maps for me of where he did things, and then the descriptions that go with it. It seems like he's fragmented, jumping around. Like you said, he goes from, yeah, I killed this guy, then I went and had dinner and had sex with this in great detail.
Yeah.
But it's not fragmented when you look at it overall. No, he just remembers every damn detail of every day. I wish I could do that. I don't even remember what the hell day of the week it is most of the time.
I know.
But, you know, that's Which, on another note, that whole serial killer thing that they were calling him, if you go back and look at some of the news reports, especially in the California papers and websites, he was immediately dubbed a serial killer. When I had first heard about him years ago, which ironically I had written briefly about him, totally forgot about it until this was brought to me. I'm like, oh my God, in 2013 I'd written a little something. That guy was labeled a serial killer, but I don't know if that's quite accurate. And talking to him, there's times where he said to me, yeah, they call me a serial killer. And then there's other times where he kind of laughs about it. He's like, in so many words, he's like, look, I was paid to do this stuff, So I don't know. We'll let people read. We'll see what they think.
Yeah, I mean, he's not really the textbook serial killer. I mean, a serial killer is someone who's basically killing for sport and hobby and pleasure, whereas he's basically doing it for business.
Right.
Yeah.
I know there's a fine line sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. Serial killer makes great headlines, so that's pretty much. And then again, when they heard that he killed so many people, especially in Central California, the fear thing, I get it. They were like, oh my God, look, he's killed all these people. That's a typical immediate serial killer thought. But then as you find out, I don't know about that.
Yeah. As far as you actually getting involved with chronicling his life and his criminal career, so what is it that actually triggered this? And as far as what triggered it, what really got you stuck in that you were going to keep going with it?
I don't know. Well, that's a tough one. Most of what I am known for, I guess, or I've written about, are dead guys. To put it bluntly, most of my,
You don't get to interview them too many times, do you?
Right. Outside of family and living people who were kind of familiar, I did the 1920s, 30s, 1970s, even. A lot of there are some, with my first book, there are some guys who are still alive and around, but even my main characters aren't. This one was very current, very in the moment, contemporary, relevant thing. And I still wasn't sure. I'm like, wow. I mean, everyone who does true crime kind of has their specialty niche. We all bounce off each other for things. Even in the organized crime thing, I'll go see one of my colleagues if it's something about Southern Florida because, he's an expert in that. Where someone will come to me about, Brooklyn for something that I'm an expert, whatever. This was totally, oh shit, what do I do here? This is new. Even though I had some research experience in the cartels and things, this is a domestic guy being called a serial killer, though I have my doubts even then, who is sitting in prison for life, wants me to tell his story. All right, here's the short answer. What hooked me is the day I found out he didn't just say he read my books. He actually read my books. The guy quoted, he'd sit there on the phone or video visits and just go back and talk about sections of my books. I remember telling my other colleague, I'm like, I have friends that, oh yeah, his books are great, and I know they've never read a single fucking page of it. But, and that's okay, because I'm glad for the support, but they haven't read a fucking word. This guy was quoting stuff that isn't even like out of my books. That hooked me. I remember telling my colleague, I said, I'm going to do this. And that was it. To answer your question, I had to think about this. My epiphany moment was when Jose Martinez came to me and actually had read all 3 of my books. That made me, as a writer, I'm like, this dude actually cared and took the time. I know he's in jail and he has the time, but that he actually did read my stuff and thought I would be good to carry out part of, this whole telling his story thing. So, yeah, I don't know if heartwarming is the word to use here, but I
Go
actually
for it.
I felt really good about it. I have no shame or qualms in saying that. That's what did it when the guy read my book. So for all of you out there watching, if you really want to warm up to me, read my fucking book, okay? And actually read it. One of them, any of them. There. I don't care. I'm cocky.
Well, you know what? I think that's great because look, this guy knows he's hardcore. He's
Hmm.
hardcore. I mean, this is as true crime as you can get. And the fact is, if he's read your books and he liked your books and he says, "Hey, man, you come over and I want you to, you're the person I want to tell my life story to." I think that's pretty cool. I think
Yeah, it
definitely
is.
cool.
I it it's humbling in a way too, and I know some people won't be able to quite understand when you're talking about someone who's demonized and vilified like he is. And look, he'll be the first to admit he did these things. Okay, but there is a humility in it as a writer, and look, I'm still climbing the rungs or whatever. I it's the struggle is real. We're always at the grindstone. And here's this guy who's, made the headlines, wants me uh to do this. So yeah, it felt good. It does. It does. There's no other way to put it. I hope I did it justice in here. I hope my fool does it justice. But yeah,
Are you
it's
sending him a copy?
oh yeah, he should have already received it.
Oh,
I had it
cool.
sent from in prison. In case you didn't know this, in the federal penitentiary where he currently is. By the way, that's an update. When you read this story, we didn't know he was being moved again. They moved him a lot, so he's in a federal penitentiary now. They're not. I'm not allowed to send him books or packages. Well, you can. It's a big pain in the ass, but he's allowed to accept Amazon like directly from publishers. So I sent from Amazon a copy. So he should have actually. I think he received it last week, but I haven't heard from him. We might as well talk about this. I have not been able to get in touch with him, but my sister got a letter from him where he wanted to tell me they haven't been allowed to use the phones or computers much lately because of the COVID thing in the prisons is really bad.
Yeah.
So they're very much limiting. He through my sister wanted to let me know he just hasn't been able to communicate much. So he's okay for those who
He
want to
didn't
know.
want you to worry.
Yeah, and I was because sometimes if he drops off, you wonder if they've moved him or if he's okay, and you don't hear anything. I do get a little worried because I do care what happens. Like I
Yeah.
said, I have no shame in saying I like Jose. I do, and I'm kind of humbled that he wants me to do this. Is it tough working with a convicted felon who has mood swings? Yes. There are times where, he's hated me, didn't want to talk to me, and then there's other times where we laugh about it and misunderstandings. I like him. I do. So I don't care what anybody wants to think about that. I just it's hard. I try to do this as a centrist. But any writer, let me tell you this: if any writer ever tells you or journalist that they're totally objective and my ass, that is not true. The best of us can weave thoughts in, even if it's subtle, but we're not objective. We're all damn subjective. And I just try as hard as I can to be down the middle. Like, look, you decide what you think of El Mano Negra. But as I found studying crime for all these years, the good guys are not always as good as you think they are. The bad guys are not always the villains you think they are. There's a gray area in between, and you better learn how to navigate that to find the truth. Don't just take shit as black and white. It doesn't work that way. Not in the world of organized crime. It really doesn't. Are there true serial killer demons on Earth? Yeah, I'll go that black and white. There's certain people like Charles Manson. I know some of you like all guy. That guy was um evil. There's no way
Yeah.
around it. Somebody like BTK. all that kind of, yeah, that to me, there are evil. But for the most part, I think there's gray areas. There's three sides to every story. So, and my side is I kind of like the guy. And I'm honored that he read my books and he kind of wanted me to do this. So there. For anyone that has any
No, I
problem
think
with
that's
it,
fine. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, he's still the person, he's still a person in there somewhere. If you take out the
I
bloodshed, there
found
is
that
a
out.
personality there. And
No, there is. And I know I'm going on and on about this, and then I'll shut up. But to make a distinction, when I say we're not objective as people want to claim they are, here's an example, and you can call me a hypocrite. That same colleague who introduced us had told me there are a few people in the prisons that truly were like serial killer, pedophiles, all the worst things you can imagine. And there were a few over the years who found out about me and have presented through him, well, maybe they could write my story. Maybe they could write my story. No. Here's the thing. There's two reasons why. I know it sounds like a hypocrite. Well, how can I do these mafia guys and how can I do El Mano Negra but tell some guy who, turned his grandma's skin into a lampshade? No. Because that's just not my thing, number one. There's plenty of writers out there who are much better at handling those contemporary borderline serial killer kind of crimes. It's not my thing. And I don't pretend to be something I'm not. And yeah, on a personal level, I really don't want to sit across from the glass from a guy, who killed his kids. I just don't. I read that. I mean, I'm fascinated, and I'll read someone else's story on that. I just don't want to sit with the dude. I'm a hypocrite because someone can say to me, "Well, how the hell can you sit across from, some mafia hitman?" I don't know. I pick and choose because we're not as objective as you think we are. Let me just dash that again.
well,
I have no shame in
we
saying
can
this.
decide what we want to write about and what we don't want to write about. I
Right,
mean, that's,
right.
I absolutely, no, I get where you're coming from. I think I feel the same way. I mean, I would feel like I can talk to, Jose and chat
Right.
with him, but I certainly don't want to chat with like, a
Yeah.
pedophile serial killer or whatever, just, yeah. Yeah.
I know, and I'm not putting down for our peers and colleagues that do that. Hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's amazing that you can. You're
I
better
know.
than me. I for anyone that doesn't know a lot about Jose, and from editing it and things I've told you off the on the side, he is a likable guy. Even the DA, when he was first brought into Alabama, that's where this all blew up. The DA came out on TV and said, "Hey, look, he's kind of a likable guy. We all like." And I did talk to people off the record who were involved that really didn't want their name out there. That if told me, they go, "I don't know how to put it, but when you sat with him, you liked the guy, you just did." So yeah, maybe that makes it easier for me that Jose Martinez is an interesting, likable guy on that level. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too judgmental. If I was sitting across from Dahmer when he was alive, how would I feel? Would I want to leave the room? Would I want to sit there and chat with? I don't know. Maybe I am prejudging things. It's just when you're a writer and you have a lot on your plate, you do have to pick and choose. And maybe that's where my, dare I say, moral compass, as limited or fractured as that is, comes into play. Because I don't have much of one, but where it is, there's just some that I'm like, no, I don't want to do, the guy that killed his entire family and, had a ritual with their body parts. I don't want to do that. It's just not my thing. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I get it. I mean, it is amazing that someone can actually do that. I mean,
Hey,
judging even from this.
Respect.
Yeah,
For those that do.
But I mean, at least we have that option. We could say, yeah, I don't think this is a subject I want to cover, or this is not a person I want to, engage with to get material from. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And hey, well, I'll say this, even as writers or journalists, we're open to, okay, well, before I say no, let me look at what is in front of me and try to find out. But if I immediately don't feel it, or in the other part, you just don't have time, you're like, this isn't my thing, someone else would be better suited to it. I think that's the biggest dose of humility we can have too, is at first I didn't think I could handle Jose. I just didn't think time-wise it wasn't necessarily my thing until I really talked to him and looked into it. I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, this guy is an anomaly, but in a lot of ways makes it interesting. But he also ties in with the cartel thing that I had been working on. I'm like, okay, the pieces fit when they do. I'm not just cut and dry. No, I'm not doing it. It was, well, let me hear it out. All right, so there you go.
Well, sometimes things fall into your lap by accident. I mean, I've had, a lot of things happen that have really worked for me that just sort of came about randomly and by accident, such as, and then in your case, this random connection to meet up with Jose, and now it's just taken on this big,
It did. It's become a monster in a good way, though.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely kept me busy. It's stressful. You know how it is. All of this stuff, it becomes daunting. And there's days you want to say, I don't want to do it anymore. And then you go back and sit down and I think with every book that I've written, every magazine article I've written, there was a moment where I sat there and said, fuck this. And then you're like, all right, I'll come back to it.
It's hard work. I mean, being in true crime, and I don't have a long history in this. I've come to it recently. It is a hell of a lot of work. And I mean, if you want to do it properly, and make sure that things are accurate, things are factual, and that they're engaging as well, not just something that is, very dry that no one wants to read. Yeah, it's a lot of work checking facts. I mean, God knows all the different sources out there, and then you find out that they're all saying something different, and then you have to find out which is the correct, and cross your fingers that is the correct information.
Right. And then there's epic fails where you'll turn something in, and 10 minutes later, after you've hit the send button, you find a new piece of evidence out of nowhere where you're like, oh, yeah, that changes everything. Shit.
Yeah, it never quite ends.
Happens.
Yeah.
No, and because this field is, if you haven't already found, you will come to find, truth truly is stranger than fiction, even for us as researchers, journalists, writers. It's like, really, is that going to happen after I hit the send button, that now this little quote comes up? But it does. The thing that keeps at least me grounded was getting over my own ego and realizing that was going to happen. And the first thing you do is don't be that pretentious of an asshole to say, my book is the Bible to this. No, my book has glitches and flaws that I found out later that you hope to rectify, or that the next writer takes from yours and finds out the truth and adds to it. There's no shame in that. There is no, in true life, there is no perfect ending you can play out in any book. Even like this short story. The one thing, last we did this, Jose was in a totally different jail, which I wrote in there. And then no sooner did we get this rolling, and I get a call from him. Guess what? I'm in California, amigo. Okay, I didn't know. And which that was another story for another day, that he almost died on a plane crash, getting him with U.S. Marshals there. He's told me extensively about that trip, but I didn't know that because it was happening in real time while we were putting together stories for this book. So anyway, it's what happens. But I have no shame in saying there's mistakes in everything I've written.
Yeah, well, either that or you just do book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4.
Right.
But then after a while, it's like, oh God, I think I need to move on to something else.
Yes. Yes. Oh, you nailed it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't write about the same subject or the same individuals over and over and over. I would go mad. It's why I even do so many genres as well, because I don't, I just like to be diverse.
I'm glad you said that because I'm ADHD, and that makes sense to why. Okay, I did say Lucky Luciano, but then why would I pick up something about a cartel hitman? Well, it's in the same realm,
But yeah,
peripheral of what I do. And I read about all that and study it and know people involved in it on the side. I just hadn't written about it. I'm ADHD. Of course, I want to. Okay, now I'm going to switch from this to that. Who knows what else I'll end up doing someday? I mean, will I write a romance novel someday? I doubt it. But
no, I think that's yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I prefer murder over that any day.
I do. I have my thing, and I don't try to. I stay in my lane, but I like to explore other stuff. And here's the other thing. You know this, I'm sure. I like to read stuff that has nothing to do with the field I write about. Sometimes
yeah,
it's just
me too.
I don't care what it is. I read a Dr. Seuss book just because I need. Yeah, I don't just sit there all day, every day, though it seems like it sometimes, doing crime stuff, because that would drive me mad if I stuck only with it. Yeah, I have to. I don't know. It's the 80s.
You have to refresh yourself, and then you
Yeah,
could
and you
come
have to
back
step
to it,
away
even
from
if
it.
it's something completely unrelated, like maybe you're reading a sci-fi novel or something,
Right.
and then you come back and I think it kind of just makes it easier to come back to the true crime as opposed to just having it 24/7 on your head, and then it's just like you just can't stand it anymore.
So
If that makes sense.
it does for me, a writer's block. Any of you ever had that? I don't know what works for everyone else, but me, and I learned it by accident, is walk the hell away from what you're doing, feed the ducks, read a book that has nothing to do with the subject matter you're writing about. Literally wipe that shit from your mind for a day or two, and you'll have that moment, figuratively feeding the ducks or reading a sci-fi book or whatever. Oh my God, that's it. You'll just have the epiphany moment. I can't make this up. That's what works for me. And now I
Yeah.
found out, as much as you don't want to go away from it because you've got a deadline, step away and do something that has nothing to do with what you're doing. It works for me.
Yeah. Well, we're a little more limited now as far as what we can step away and get away from
Well,
things.
yeah.
So just
Yeah.
to sort of find it within like the environment of home or just outside the door kind of thing.
That's it. Binge on Netflix. And
Well, that's actually, yeah, that's what, when in the evening, when I just have to take a break, and I'm still going back and forth with the computer and checking messages and whatnot, but if I find like a series, because I'm really into a lot of the foreign language series, non-English language, I'll start binging on them. And that's sort of my guilty thing that I'll do in the evenings.
yeah,
And
I
then I go
found
back and
myself
check
caught up.
messages.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'll check my phone. I'll do that, but then I'll end up like, let's see, I watched Narcos, the entire series, 3 times in a row. So it's, but I didn't realize how people got caught up in binge watching, because I have not been a big television watcher for several years because I'm so busy with this. I don't like, people talk about a series. I'm like, huh? Then I discovered that. I'm like, oh, this is what they're talking about, where it's 7 hours later. I haven't moved. I've watched an entire series of whatever. But yeah, now I see what people were talking about because I've done it.
Well, I started watching something last night, and it was from the UK, and it's obviously it's in English, and I'm like having trouble understanding people, and I'm realizing that just about everything I'm watching is either in Swedish, Finnish,
Oh, wow.
German. So now it's like I can't understand English.
You've really ventured out. Yeah, I don't mind the foreign language stuff if it's cool. I've watched some, but wow.
Yeah, there's some very good crime ones, crime series, crime dramas, crime thrillers. So just a heads up.
All right, I'll look.
Okay. So in closing, do you have anything that you're working on right now, or anything you'd like to plug aside from Our book.
Right. Well, definitely. Whoops. Pick this up. Pick it up. Oh yeah, and you can get it from Mitzi's site. You can get it from Amazon.
Well, not on my site. I just put all the
Oh,
links
all right.
for
Well,
people.
go to her site anyway, and it'll point
Yeah,
you.
go there
And
anyway.
then I have a few here if you want one that like we can sign our little sections or whatever. I'll go to my site. But anyway, yeah, I'm working on a couple things that I can't talk about yet. A, because I don't want to jinx them. B, because oh boy, this could be big. But as for this, I'm working on I don't know if you want me. I'm working on a story for Mitzi's next anthology. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. Definitely very different than this one. It's cool. But I've got that, and of course the book about El Mano Negra, his memoirs. I'm, working on finishing that, where it's gonna go, who's publishing, all this stuff. And let's see what else. That's all I can talk about right now, though. So
okay. No, that's cool. I'm the same way. It's like I'm like something kind of sounds really promising, and I'm so superstitious. I must have gypsy blood, because I'm really I get more superstitious as the years pass. I'm like, I better not say anything, because then it's all going to just not happen.
Hey, that's come back to bite me. That's how I was not really a superstitious person until I did that a few years ago. It was almost a done deal, and I made the mistake of finally going, yeah, guess what? One day later, there was no deal. And I think I cried, curled up in the fetal position for 3 days on my couch. So now I've learned to just, shit happens. Yeah.
Keep stum.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm so glad you were able to come on, and after our half an hour of nothing happening, we finally, hopefully some people actually have watched. So.
Yes, thank you to anyone who actually, dealt with our little setbacks, which was out of our control. It
really was. This was really over the top, and I don't know what happened. And it's going to make me paranoid now, because now I'll be afraid to schedule another one of these things.
I know.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. This was good. I'm glad we did it.
Well, thank you. And again, Christian's story is The Black Hand and Glass Eye of Early Mart, A Killer's Perspective in the Best New True Crime Stories, Small Towns. Out now. I think it's a little bit late for some booksellers in the UK, but you can pre-order it if you can't get it right away. So thanks again, Christian.
Thank you, Mitzi.
Bye.
Bye.